Hi you guys, this is Nicole from My Carolina Garden. My garden is located in growing zone 8B and I am in southeastern North Carolina. Welcome to another greenhouse chat. Now, I was fortunate enough to be able to film a couple of videos outdoors recently, and I'm so thankful for that because now we're back to cold and it's raining right now. So I am cozied up inside my greenhouse with all my little plants. I actually have the heater right next to me because it's a chilly everywhere. Today's greenhouse chat is so good because it's a little bit of a spin-off from one of my main gardening themes. My main gardening theme is expand your landscape as much as possible, all while sticking to a budget. So it's how many plants can you get? What kind of beauty can you have on your property, all within a budget? So this is similar, except we are going to talk about how to make your garden look expensive, high-end, luxurious, all on a budget. So these, like I said, it's a spin off of that main theme because this is going to be different examples than we have ever talked about before. The easiest way, I think, to give your garden an overall high-end, polished look to it is by being intentional. So I'm going to give you 5 ways that I see that you can make your garden look expensive on a budget, but the main streamlined theme is going to be being intentional. So first of all, it is your plant selection. We don't want to break the bank, but maybe we want to invest in one superstar plant, something that could be a major focal point. This is where we are being very intentional. We are selecting something that's going to be a showstopper. It could be in blooms, it could be in color, it could be the shape or size of the plant. Let's think about a Japanese maple, for example. Japanese maples are known for their colorful foliage as well as the shape and design of them. You can get different varieties of Japanese maples, but let's say we intentionally get one main focal point. Maybe we only spend like $30 on it because we're getting something that's small, but in a few years it's going to be amazing. So we're intentionally going to select a show-stopping plant. Another example of a showstopper maybe is a camellia, who, you know, is typically a cool weather bloomer, but maybe we have that in such an area that is just going to make everything else around it pop. Very intentional about our plant selection. Thinking about shapes of plants or shrubs. How about topiaries or espaliers? These are the types of things that are done because their shape draws your eye in. You don't have to have a formal garden in order to have a topiary, for example, but maybe you have it on either side of a pathway or either side of a door or something like that. So just choosing plants with very specific, like I said, color, shape, size, whatever, something awesome. You're intentionally choosing that thing to be where your main focal point is. Everything else gets designed around it. Some people are amazing rose fans. So the David Austin roses could be the selection for you. Maybe you want to make some sort of an arbor or a trellis, which is kind of getting into something else I want to talk about, but choosing a statement flower for an amazing focal point in your garden could be awesome. So being intentional in this sense means planning for long-term beauty. So again, buying a tree that's a little more budget friendly to start out with, but then is going to grow into something amazing. Number 2, structure is everything. Now, when I say structure, it could mean pathways that get you from here to there. It could mean edging your borders in a certain way to guide your eye along it. It could mean trellises or even archways or pergolas or anything like that. That adds structure into your garden. It takes you a certain direction. It helps to define your garden space. And a well-designed garden area automatically gives you a more polished, high-end look. So talking about structure and intentionally placing a focal point in your garden, think about how many other YouTubers or people on Instagram maybe whose gardens you follow that have something particular in their garden that you always know that it's them when you see this thing. Maybe it's like an obelisk, right? You know, just that four-sided shape that starts to taper and go up to a point. Maybe someone has painted it purple or green or something eye-catching, but you see it in so many of their photos that you associate that shape, that structure with their garden. Or maybe it's some sort of sculpture, metal sculpture, I don't know, something that is in a lot of pictures or a lot of their videos. And again, you just think of their garden when you see that. These are the types of things that I'm thinking you would choose for your garden. Something that fits your personality, makes sense for you. I'm thinking maybe my blue boardwalk in my secret garden is one of those things for me. I don't know how many other people you know that have blue wooden pathways in their gardens. I don't know anyone else that has that because I made it blue and that's just me and a reflection of, you know, my coastal life here, etc. I feel like that is something that you see the blue wooden boardwalk and you think that's Nicole's garden. So those are the types of things we're talking about: structure and intentionally placing items that are focal points. So we are going to pick something that is meant to be a focal point, that we can design everything else around, plant other things around. But here is our structure. Let's pick pathway. Maybe we have stepping stones, or maybe we have a gravel pathway. The pathway's there, it's going to get us from point A to point B, but this allows us to define flower beds all along the pathway, maybe plant in groupings all along to, again, guide our eye visually. But all things considered, your garden is going to come off as more luxurious when our eye is being glided around. If we build some sort of a structure, again, like an arbor or a trellis or something like that, that is welcoming people into a certain section of your garden. Maybe they're exiting one area and entering another area. Again, we're just defining our spaces with these well-intentioned and purposefully placed garden structures. Now, me personally, in terms of edging, I used to be the kind of person who had like rock edges around my whole flower bed, but that became very tedious for the people who took care of my property, my lawn, trying to navigate around the stones. So now I am just, my big thing with my flower beds is I like my edges very clearly defined. So I have to go through multiple times each year to make sure that those edges are crisp and that, you know, my centipede grass isn't growing up into it or my weeds aren't growing into it. That messes up the look of my crisp edge. Again, we're doing everything on a budget, right? So let's talk about our trellises and our arbors and things like that. Ideally, it would be awesome if you could build something yourself. And it's cool because now there's Pinterest and all sorts of ways that we can just gather up our inspiration. Maybe we're following some of our favorite gardeners on Instagram and they're posting things that they've done. It's great because we can pretty much get instructions on how to build any of these things, fellow YouTubers and things like that. So instructions are out there if we're able to do some work ourselves, or maybe you invite your handy neighbor over to help you and you just say, I'll buy you all the pizza you want if you help me build my trellis. Number 3 is the power of groupings or grouping containers together. This is big because a really fast way to make your garden look messy is to have all sorts of different kinds of flower pots scattered about. First of all, they're not placed near each other, or second of all, every single one of them may have a different paint job, different color, different design to them. We are trying to do things now that can be cohesive in design. And actually, if you group some like large flower pots together, that makes a statement piece in and of itself. And in my video recently, when I was talking about being able to go out and buy new garden decor now, even though it's winter, plants might not be out in the store yet, but the garden decor is starting to be put out. I got some gorgeous pots that are like concrete and they were inexpensive from Marshall's. So think about things like that. What store can you pop into to buy a grouping of pots so you're making a statement arrangement with the pots, but they look great together? Again, cohesive design. Perhaps you don't want to go buy any new pots at all. Why don't you think about picking up some spray paint? They come with all these different faux finishes now. You can buy crackle paint. You can buy things that make your planter look like it's concrete or stone. Investing in something something like that, yes, it may be more expensive than like buying a can of just flat black spray paint, but it's giving your pots an upgraded feel, and now you're not spending the money on the pots themselves. So think about being able to do things like that as well. Join things together by color or texture, just make them look maybe even more expensive than they actually are. Grouping pots in threes is a fabulous idea. If you do more than that, great. Do varying heights. Maybe put them up on different levels if they're the same size pot. Fill them with lush plants, some greenery. You can make things look more layered when they're nice and full and lush. So when we're talking about placing things in groupings, I don't just mean containers either. It doesn't have to just be that. But when we're planting, let's plant in drifts. So we're going to have a whole grouping of the same kind of plant or flower to really make an impact and show off a certain color, let's say, of, some pink flower that you planted in a drift, and you just have tons of it. That can make your garden look so rich and luscious because there's a whole sea of it. That's something I'm actually quite bad at, and this year I want to start making that more of one of my own goals. I tend to buy things, yes, that are on sale, but I'll buy one or two of them that are on sale because I want to get 6 different types of flowers instead of buying 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever it may be of a certain flower or color, etc. So planting in drifts is similar to grouping your containers together because, again, it's just a mass area that becomes a focal point. Number 4, buy smart and multiply what you already have. Now, this idea is my basic theme all the time. These are things I talk about all the time, so I'm not going to go into them too deeply, but buy perennials, perhaps over annuals, because not only do they come back again the next year, but you can divide them when they get bigger and you can add them into different parts of your landscape. That's one of my favorite things to do. I expand my landscaping that way more than any other money-saving way. So dividing your perennials, propagating whatever you can, trading with friends and neighbors, looking for clearance plants, all these things are all that same idea. Shop smart, look for things that can hang around with you for a while, and ultimately, hopefully, you can divide them up and make more plants for yourself. Number 5, this one is my favorite. Low cost, but high impact garden decor and DIY. So this is what I am all about in this area. If I can build something or try to build something, I will, because a lot of times what I can make myself is going to come out less expensive than if I purchased the same exact item. Of course, if it takes me an entire day, say 8 hours to build something that I could have gotten for, I don't know, maybe even $50, it wasn't a good use of my time. But ultimately, decor is what brings a space together. It's kind of what is furnishing your garden. And this is a really quick way that we can elevate the look of our space. Some examples of what this kind of garden decor can be that could just elevate your space. String lights, lighting in your garden, solar lights really makes an impact. It creates atmosphere and ambiance and really can look absolutely stunning. So maybe think about lighting in your garden. Outdoor mirrors or maybe picture frames that you can use outdoors. Now, the mirrors are funny. The first time I ever saw someone use a mirror, I thought, oh my goodness, I would set something on fire if I used a mirror in my landscape. Clearly, you would not put a mirror out in a very sunny area to try to reflect the sunlight off of a mirror. But how about if you put mirrors on a fence line, let's say, in a shade garden? Or like I was just showing you the area behind my shed where I'd like to make a really, really beautiful shade garden. I could just go to the thrift store, buy some old mirrors. Maybe I'm going to spray paint the edges of those. Who knows what kinds of things you can find. And I could hang them on the back of my shed where it's completely shady. I don't have to worry about reflecting any sunlight, but yet I can bounce around the light that's there to make the space look grander or just kind of give a little bit more interest to that area. Using reclaimed materials inside your garden is so awesome. This is where you can get crazy unique. You can be looking at flea markets, for example, to find something old that you can repurpose, or maybe it's like, think about this, like a salvaged iron gate. I would love, that would be something I would want to find. But a gate or some sort of architectural detail. Oh my gosh, I could get lost in the architectural details. That's one of the reasons why I love Charleston, South Carolina. I just feel like there are so many little architectural details on the outside of the buildings and their window boxes. And it's just, I love all of that. But think about that. What can you find? Maybe it's old windows that you're repurposing. I've seen people hang old windows on their fences. Sometimes they paint on the glass. I saw somebody grow a grapevine all around an old window, that sort of thing. So it could go way beyond pallet wood, which you see it happening here in my garden, and it's other finds that maybe nobody else has. And that can bring a focal point right into your garden. Ultimately, pleasing the eye is one of the ways in which our gardens become more rich and high-end looking. They look more luxurious if things look intentional. Now, I'm not saying a cottage style garden can't look rich, done, in someone's certain style, because that is a style. But I'm not really thinking along those terms. I'm thinking of patterns. I'm thinking of symmetry. I'm thinking of intentional planting instead of planting like cottage garden style. Do you understand what I mean? Intentionally planting every other pink, white, something like that. Something that's going to carry our eye. It's going to draw our eye. I think that very intentional looking stuff helps to make your garden look polished. At the end of the day, if it's pleasing to the eye, your garden looks polished, and you don't always have to spend a lot of money to do it. Here's another thought. I also recently told you when we were looking behind my shed where I want to create an awesome shade garden, I was talking about doing things like with coleus. Could I do some sort of a vertical coleus wall? That sort of thing. Well, if I would like to save money, but I want to have 60 coleus plants in this vertical wall, let's say, it would behoove me to either start propagating those now or growing coleus from seed right now, which, by the way, I have coleus seeds planted, so that I can make more of this plant for a lot less money. So these are all the types of things. So I've given you a lot of ideas for focal points, being intentional, and different ways that we can do that to all elevate the look of our garden and keep it on a budget. If you're excited to try one of these ideas, like maybe you're going to build your own obelisk or build your own trellis, or I don't know, find that perfect Japanese maple that's going to be a focal point for one of your gardens, let me know what you're going to do. I'm going to let you know what I choose to do too. Again, coleus wall, is that going to be a focal point for me? All these sorts. I have so many ideas, so I got to rein myself in, so I make sure little by little, a little becomes a lot, and I don't just get overwhelmed and try to get everything done at once. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so, just to ensure that my videos continue to show up in your feed. And I appreciate your wonderful comments and support. It's all awesome. Hopefully you enjoyed this greenhouse chat as well. And until next time, you guys, happy planting.